I do like anime. Wait, what's the one I like?
Avatar.
Avatar, thank you.
Now, are you saying anime Japanese animation, or are you saying anime animation in general?
I really do love anime. I've seen plenty. An exact number I couldn't give you. I've lost track.
I'd have to say I do in fact like anime.
I don't spend a lot of time watching anime, but when I do watch it, I think it's pretty cool.
The characters, like, they'll kind of stop and rehash like what's going on in their emotions and thoughts. And I don't think our stuff doesn't do all of that.
The cultural differences are very much less individualistic and more group oriented.
I do love the worlds. The fight scenes, it's perfect. It's all about friendship and taking care of each other. And
Normal TV is more boring, and anime is funnier and has better storylines.
Because you're reading the subtitles, it's in a different language, so it's more engaging. There's also strong emotion. You know, the little characters, they do really big, bold things, so it gets your attention and pulls you in.
Anime. Japanese anime, to be specific. If you've never been exposed to it before, it's a genre of animated TV that originates in Japan and is based off of manga, which are Japanese comics. About 2 years ago, I finally caved and said yes to watching an episode of Naruto with my brother. In the time since, I've pretty much become an unashamedly diehard weeb, drooling over the characters, worlds, art, fighting, and stories of shows like Demon Slayer, Naruto, Death Note, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, The Promised Neverland, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and the list goes on. I found myself more captivated by this form of media than any other, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the height of its success and the most recent Star Wars trilogy, each of which had movies grossing over $1 billion. Now I know you're probably thinking, Johnny G, this is literally all a matter of opinion. And you'd be exactly right, but that opinion has to come from somewhere, and I've also found that it's being matched more and more by people in my immediate circle of friends and family, as well as in my college classes and online. Here's a Google search trend to help back this up. There are a few big catalysts to Japanese anime's recent explosion of popularity in Western culture. The biggest, I'd argue, was the COVID-19 shutdown of 2020. People were locked inside for unprecedentedly long amounts of time, and during that time, go figure, we got fucking bored. Thankfully, we're the first era of humanity to ever have access to a beautiful thing called the internet. During quarantine, average internet use jumped by 70%, and streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, HBO, and Crunchyroll for your anime diehards jumped by 12%. Also, we have no way of really knowing how many people were watching via pirate websites. Along with that, search trends for anime jumped well outside its established fanbase. Let's look at Netflix as an example real quick. Netflix boasts a monthly subscriber count of over 220 million, and it has a library that's grown to have over 200 anime titles, including both One Piece and Naruto, two of the top 10 highest grossing anime franchises of all time. I believe my generation was primed for this boom in popularity by American cartoons that came out in the 2000s, like Teen Titans, Ben 10, Kim Possible, Star Wars The Clone Wars, and the big one that really set us up for a love of Japanese-style animation, Avatar The Last Airbender. This show has a perfect 100% Rotten Tomatoes score and won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Animation. Its art style closely mirrors the anime style native to Japan and incorporates a lot of inspirations and symbolisms based on Chinese, Japanese, and even Indian cultures. The Last Airbender follows the traditional hero's journey archetype, which, when done well, resounds incredibly well with audiences. Similarly to this, a lot of shonen animes, that is, anime with a young and traditionally male protagonist, focus on action, adventure, and fighting, tend to follow an overarching hero's journey. But there's been plenty of live-action television with a successfully executed hero's journey, so what makes anime special? Let's go over a few things. For one, animators only have so much ability to make characters express emotion. As a result, the voice actors really have to go over the top in some cases to sell it. At first, to my mother, for example, this seemed a little obnoxious, but she got used to it after a couple episodes. And once you get used to it, it can be difficult to go back to regular acting or voice acting. I have another idea that's more of a bit of a theory, but I think it makes decent sense. Unlike other forms of media, which are presented at 24 frames per second for traditional film and 30 or 60 FPS for the average YouTube video, anime, specifically the older ones, are presented at much lower frames per second. Sometimes, even just having a still image thrown up there for a few seconds at a time with a simple pan or shake effect to give the illusion of movement. The reason being, the anime, specifically the newer ones, takes a really long time to produce. Demon Slayer, for example, takes as long as 7 weeks of multiple rotations of teams to produce a single episode at decently high FPS. As a result, I believe watching anime is somewhat reminiscent of reading a book, with the viewer's brain sort of having to go the extra mile to fill in gaps, especially if you're watching the show with subtitles. Another thing that sets anime apart is the cultural differences that show through in a number of ways. These cultural differences and unusualities contribute to a distinct feeling of immersion if the viewer goes in with an open mind. And finally, one of the most appealing aspects of anime is the art. Every anime studio has a particular style, but studios never produce the same thing twice. So you can bet you're going to get a different viewing experience almost every time. And in recent years, we've been getting some incredible content, specifically fight scenes. They're fucking cool. Anime characters are able to give and withstand damage and superpowers that no real person could, and they'd be damn hard to emulate with live-action CGI. After watching the movie Dragon Ball Super Broly, I realized that seeing a couple of otherworldly invincible fellas punch each other through mountains, destroy landscapes, and change weather patterns with the strength of their fists sends my dopamine receptors into overdrive, making it hard to look away for even a second. Let's wrap this up. Personally, I found that life can be a bit of a doozy sometimes. Anime's offered me something in an effective way that I found not a lot of other things can: an escape. Now obviously, to become detached and always looking to, well, anything as a means of distracting yourself from real life isn't good. However, in healthy moderation, anime has the power to whisk you away to beautiful worlds and introduce you to the best of friends, to go on the craziest adventures and fight the most explosive battles.